She said she was sleeping at Kayla's. Her phone was off the entire night. I stared at the ceiling fan for hours, lying on the couch fully dressed, shoes still on, the blue light of my phone screen bouncing shadows across the living room walls. I didn't call. I didn't text after the third one didn't deliver. I just waited. She had never turned her phone off overnight. Not once. Not even during camping trips or spa days. Not during arguments. Not when her cousin died. Not even when she'd accidentally dropped it in the sink that one time, because even then she'd gone out of her way to borrow someone else's to let me know. But last night, she vanished. And I let her. The only thing more pathetic than how long I waited awake was what I did while I waited. I opened the drawer in the hallway, dug around behind the random cables and expired coupons, and pulled out the spare iPhone I used to use before I upgraded. She didn't know I kept it. I powered it up, connected to the Wi-Fi, and logged into the Apple ID she'd once asked me to set up for her. My hands didn't shake. My stomach did. She never changed the password. Nothing. Nothing on Find My iPhone. She'd disabled it. That was the first real confirmation. A choice. A deliberate, conscious click that said, I don't want to be found. By the time I heard her key in the door, it was 9:34 in the morning. Sunlight painted the floor in long stripes. My shirt stuck to my back. My jaw ached from how tightly I'd been clenching it. Alyssa breezed in like it was just another Sunday morning, like she hadn't just surgically removed herself from my life for over 12 hours. Hair in a low bun, sunglasses still on, holding a Starbucks like a trophy. She stopped in the kitchen, opened the fridge like she hadn't noticed me sitting at the counter, and said, "Why didn't you go to bed?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. I studied her instead. Her hoodie had a small smear of something near the hem. Lipstick maybe, not her color. And her phone in her hand now was turned back on. "I called you," I said finally. The words came out low, hoarse. My mouth felt like it was full of cotton. She gave me a lazy shrug, took a sip from her coffee and said, "Yeah, I saw. I forgot my charger. Kayla didn't have the right one." The lie was so cheap it didn't even sting. It made me feel insulted, as if I didn't even deserve a lie with effort. Then came the laugh. Short, dismissive, almost like a cough. She walked past me, ruffling my hair like I was a tired golden retriever, and said, "You worry too much, babe. I'm fine. Go get some sleep." I didn't move. "Where were you?" I asked. Not softly, not loudly, just directly. It landed like glass on tile. She turned slowly, like she was waiting for a punchline. "I told you," she said. "Kayla's. You think I was out getting railed or something?" She smiled, and it was the ugliest thing I'd ever seen. Not because of how she looked. Alyssa was always beautiful. It was the smile of someone who had already decided they didn't owe you the truth. Someone who knew you'd either accept their lie or walk, and either option was fine with them. I stood up. She flinched just barely. Not in fear, in irritation, like I'd interrupted her playlist. "You weren't at Kayla's," I said. She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. "Okay, Sherlock. You gonna call her and interrogate her? Pull up phone records?" "What now, Daniel?" But I already had. Kayla had posted an Instagram story last night, 11:47 p.m. A boomerang of her cat chasing a laser on the wall. Alone. In her apartment. No sign of Alyssa. That little green glow of betrayal burned behind my eyelids every time I blinked. I said nothing. Alyssa waited. When she realized I wasn't going to yell, accuse, or even raise my voice, she grew bored, tossed her bag on the couch, walked toward the bedroom. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Then again, and again. I picked it up. She turned instantly. "Don't touch my phone." 3 missed texts from a contact named Eric Vet. "We don't have a pet." I looked up at her. She wasn't frozen. She wasn't panicked. She was amused. "You really want to go through this?" she said, arms crossed, smile tight. "You want to play detective? Dig through everything? Pretend like you're not overreacting to a missed call?" I didn't answer. She didn't wait for one. "Go ahead," she said, walking past me again. "Open it." Let's see how far down the rabbit hole you're willing to crawl before you admit you've lost your mind. Her voice echoed down the hall as she vanished into the bedroom. But I didn't open the phone. I didn't need to. I walked over to the dining table, picked up the folded documents I'd had delivered yesterday morning, signed, notarized, official, and I placed them gently beside her latte. The phone buzzed once more. This time, she didn't laugh. She stared at the divorce papers without touching them. Her arms were still folded, but now it looked less like a power pose and more like she was holding herself together. "You're being dramatic," she said. Her voice was quieter now, but not apologetic, just tired. Not with guilt, though. With me. With the situation. As if I had derailed her day. I stayed at a friend's. My phone died. Jesus, Daniel, people lose chargers. It's not a crime. I sat down slowly across from her and said nothing. Silence had started working better than words. It made her fill the space, and every time she did, the cracks spread wider. "I'm not cheating," she added softer, barely making eye contact. "This is crazy. You're acting like a psycho." That last word landed hard. She knew what she was doing. She'd used it before, in fights where she knew she was cornered. It was her escape hatch. Make me the unstable one, and suddenly we're not talking about her phone being off. We're talking about my reaction to it. "You want to talk about chargers?" I said. "Let's talk about Eric Vet." She blinked. "1 heartbeat. 2. That's Kayla's ex," she said quickly. "He's a vet. We don't have pets." She was thinking of adopting a dog and used my number at the clinic. "You're seriously stalking my messages now." I almost laughed. The lie was so quick, so polished. It had clearly been waiting in the chamber. She'd rehearsed it. That name wasn't a slip-up. It was a mask. "You want to open it?" I asked. She narrowed her eyes. "No." "Then unlock it." "No." "Why not?" She stood up so fast the chair screeched across the tile. "Because I don't have to justify my privacy to a controlling maniac. This is pathetic." Her voice had changed. Not louder, just sharp, clear, full of venom, like she was glad I pushed her here. This was her real comfort zone. Rage, defensiveness, fire. She'd always been good at flipping the narrative in one breath. "You serve me divorce papers because of a name in my phone?" she hissed. "Because my phone died? You're gonna throw away 6 years for that? Grow up." And right then, I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit before. She wasn't trying to convince me she was innocent. She was daring me to follow through. I stood up. My legs were stiff, my hands cold. "This isn't because of a name," I said. "It's because of all the nights you came home smelling like someone else's cologne. It's because of your lies, Alyssa. It's the way you laugh when you lie. Like it bores you. Like it's beneath you. You're paranoid. You're reckless." We stood there for a long second. Nothing between us but the cold air of a room where love had already died. Then she turned, walked back to the bedroom, and slammed the door behind her. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She didn't even ask if I was serious. She just left the papers on the table and disappeared. And I knew she wouldn't sign them. Not yet. Not because she wanted to fix things, no, that would have required her to feel guilt. She wouldn't sign because it meant I got the last word. And Alyssa never let that happen. The bedroom door stayed closed for hours. I didn't knock. I didn't text. I didn't breathe too loudly. The house was a museum of tension. Chairs untouched. The faint scent of her perfume lingering near the doorway. The empty smoothie glass still sweating on the counter. I stared at those divorce papers for a long time. They sat where she left them, untouched, unopened, like a letter from a war zone no one wanted to read. At 3:11 p.m., she emerged, freshly showered, hair damp, skin glowing, dressed in high-waisted jeans and a black tank top like she was heading out to brunch, not walking through a house thick with betrayal. She didn't look angry anymore, just alert, like she was calculating. Her voice was casual, almost kind. "So what now? You want me to beg? Apologize for something I didn't do?" I didn't answer. I watched her slide her Apple Watch onto her wrist, slowly, precisely, like nothing was wrong. "You think you're the victim here," she said, eyeing her reflection in the microwave. "But the truth is you've been checked out for months. You just didn't notice I checked out too." She said it like she was dropping a mic. A confession disguised as a justification. And it hit me all at once. This wasn't a sudden thing. This wasn't one night, one guy, one lie. This was rot, slow and steady, behind the drywall of our marriage. "You didn't just check out," I said. "You started living a second life." Her lips curved slightly, a smug half-smile. "And maybe that life didn't come with constant suspicion and 2 a.m. accusations. That was rich." She turned this on me, as if I'd built this atmosphere of mistrust from nothing. As if I hadn't spent years trusting her while she gave me pieces of herself on a leash. "You know what the worst part is?" I said, my voice low. "It's not that you lied. It's how little effort you put into it. Like you thought I was too dumb or too in love to notice." She picked up her keys. "I'm going to get some air. Alyssa." She paused in the doorway, hand on the knob. "Don't come back tonight." Her grip tightened slightly. But she didn't argue. Didn't flinch. Didn't even look back. She walked out. I waited until the click of her car door echoed down the street. Then I grabbed her laptop. It was still open, logged in, no password prompt. I clicked the iMessage app. Nothing in the inbox. But the trash folder was full. Hundreds of deleted threads and one name kept coming up. E. I opened one. "Last night was insane. I still smell like you. You made me feel more alive in 3 hours than 6 years of marriage ever did." I closed the lid. Not because I'd seen enough, but because I had finally seen everything. I stared at the closed laptop, hands numb, heart pounding out a slow, heavy rhythm like a funeral march. She hadn't even bothered to encrypt the device. No fingerprint. No second-layer password. She'd left the door wide open because somewhere deep down, Alyssa didn't care if I found it. She wanted me to. Or maybe she assumed I never would. The messages weren't a few scattered, flirty texts. They were a novel. A timeline. A roadmap of betrayal stretched out over months. He called her Red like it was some private nickname, and she called him E. Just E. I don't know if that was supposed to protect his identity or add to the mystique. Either way, it made my skin crawl. "I hate sleeping next to him after being with you. It feels wrong. He still thinks I'm just working late." Poor guy. I didn't know what was worse, the intimacy or the contempt. The way she spoke about me in those messages made me feel like a background character in my own life. Some clueless extra orbiting her real story. I stood up and paced the kitchen like a caged animal. I wanted to scream. To smash the laptop. To erase the digital stench of everything I just read. But instead, I did something I didn't plan. I replied. To him. Just one sentence. "You're not as invisible as she made you feel." I hit send. Closed the app. Turned off the Wi-Fi. Then I printed everything. Every message. Every picture. Every calendar entry where she'd blocked out spa day or book club or Kayla's and was really out with him. I put it all in a manila folder. Labeled it with a Sharpie, evidence. I wasn't thinking like a hurt husband anymore. I was thinking like a man preparing for war. She came back around 7 p.m. No text. No warning. Just keys in the lock and that familiar jingle I used to love. She walked in like nothing happened, humming again, some stupid pop song she knew I hated. Her sunglasses were still on even though the sun had set. When she saw me at the table, folder in front of me, she paused. I didn't say anything. Just slid the folder toward her like a dealer laying down a bad hand. She looked at the label, let out a quiet scoff, and flipped it open. 5 pages in, her face changed. 10 pages in, she stopped turning. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She smiled. A slow, cruel smile that made my stomach twist. "So that's what this is," she said. I nodded. "This is the truth. The one you didn't even try to hide." She leaned back against the counter, arms folded. "You went through my private stuff. You gave up private when you stopped being loyal." "Loyalty," she laughed. "You think you earned that? You've been emotionally checked out for years, Daniel. I just moved on. You stayed stuck. That's not my fault. You didn't move on. You lied. You cheated. You humiliated me." She looked down at the folder, then up at me. "And now what? You think exposing this makes you the hero? You think anyone will care that you printed a bunch of texts?" "No," I said. "I don't care what anyone else thinks. But I'm not staying in this lie with you." Silence. Long. Uncomfortable. Her voice was almost a whisper now. "So what, you want me gone?" I nodded. She didn't fight it. She didn't even ask for time to pack. She walked into the bedroom and began folding clothes into a tote bag, humming again, same damn song, like a victory anthem. And I sat there, alone, watching the woman I thought I married dissolve into a stranger who didn't even bother hiding the glee in her exit. She packed like she was going on vacation. No hesitation. No tears. Just smooth, methodical movements, rolling socks, folding shirts, checking herself in the mirror before tossing in a compact and a travel-sized bottle of perfume she never wore for me. It was surreal. Like watching a well-rehearsed performance she'd done before, just not in front of me. I stood in the hallway, leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed, saying nothing. I wanted her to feel the weight of the years we'd built together crumbling in real time. But she didn't flinch. She zipped up the bag, turned to face me, and said, "I'll come back for the rest later." "No, you won't." She cocked her head, amused. "You planning to burn my stuff, Daniel? Pack what you need. I'll have the rest boxed up and dropped off." That got her. The corner of her mouth twitched, just slightly, like a mask slipping for a second. She hated losing control. Even now, in the final act, she wanted to be the one choosing the terms of the ending. "You're making this ugly for no reason," she said, brushing past me toward the front door. "No," I replied. "You made it ugly. I'm just cleaning it up." She stopped at the door, turned slowly. The hallway light hit her just right, she looked stunning. I hated that. Hated how she could still pull off composure like a second skin while I stood there fraying at the edges. "I never loved him," she said. I didn't blink. She let that hang in the air like it was supposed to be a comfort. Or a knife. "I didn't need to," she added. "That's the difference. With you it was always about expectations. You wanted this polished, picture-perfect life. He just wanted me." I stepped closer. "He wanted what you pretended to be." Her mouth opened, probably to unleash something vicious, but she stopped herself. Instead, she smiled, slow and dismissive, like I wasn't even worth the energy. "I'll text you when I'm ready for the rest." I didn't respond. The door closed behind her, quietly. And for the first time in a very long time, the house was silent. No footsteps. No perfume trailing behind her. No fake babe echoing through the kitchen. Just silence. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the dent her body left in the pillow, and I let that be my grief. That small, stupid hollow. The last trace of someone I thought I knew. I didn't know what the next step was. Lawyer. Papers. Selling the place. Telling her friends. Untangling years of us into legal boxes. But in that moment, none of that mattered. Because for the first time, I wasn't stuck waiting. I was done. The first night without her was the quietest sound I'd ever heard. I sat on the couch for hours, not moving. Didn't eat. Didn't drink. Didn't scroll through my phone. I just existed, surrounded by the echo of a life we'd built, now hollow. The apartment still smelled like her. Every room was full of her ghost, the half-used shampoo in the shower, the mug with her lipstick print sitting in the sink, the throw blanket she always kicked off her feet but insisted on keeping anyway. She was everywhere, even in her absence. That was the cruelest part. Around midnight, I got up. Not to sleep. I wasn't tired. I started packing her things. One room at a time. No music. No TV. Just the sound of drawers sliding open, zippers, plastic bins snapping shut. It wasn't angry. It was clinical. Necessary. Like removing infected tissue. I found things I hadn't expected to. 2 tickets to a concert we never attended dated months ago. Folded notes in her handwriting, not love notes, but to-do lists. Strangely impersonal. Like she'd been living 2 steps ahead of me, organizing a life she was no longer interested in sharing. And then, in the drawer by the bed, I found the necklace. Gold. Subtle. Not expensive. But it wasn't from me. I'd never seen it before. Still in the box. With a note folded inside. To read. For every secret night and all the ones to come. E. My hand closed around the chain. I didn't know what emotion was supposed to come next. Anger? Hurt? Disgust? Nothing came. Just this dull, nauseating pressure in my chest. I put the box in the folder with the printed messages. Evidence. That's what it was now. Not memories. Not heartbreak. Just items in a file to protect myself legally, emotionally, financially. I crashed on the couch around 4 a.m., finally too tired to care about the ache behind my eyes. The next morning I made the call. I spoke to my lawyer, Jeremy, an old college friend who had no idea how personal this was about to become. "Are you sure?" he asked after I told him everything. "I've never been more sure of anything." We went through the logistics: contested divorce, probable spousal deceit, no kids, joint assets, apartment lease in both names. Jeremy said it wouldn't be messy if we moved fast. But with Alyssa, nothing ever ended clean. She's not the type to just roll over, he warned. I know. That afternoon, she texted. Alyssa, nice move with the messages. Childish but efficient. Alyssa, don't think I'll go quietly just because you caught me being bored. I didn't respond. That evening, I changed the locks. Not out of spite, out of necessity. This was no longer her home. This was the scene of the crime. And I was done playing the part of the patient husband waiting for his wife to return to who she used to be. She wasn't coming back. The woman I married was already long gone. The knock came 2 days later. Not a text. Not a call. A physical knock, 10:17 p.m. I'd been in bed, not sleeping, just lying there like I had every night since she left. The kind of stillness where every second ticks louder than the last. I opened the door, already knowing it would be her. Alyssa stood there, arms crossed, wearing that black coat she only wore when she wanted to look intimidating. Hair tied back, makeup flawless, posture perfect. A performance. I need my hard drives, she said flatly. Not happening. She rolled her eyes, stepping forward without waiting. I blocked the doorway. You're not coming in. That stopped her. Her lips curled, almost a smile, but not quite. You changed the locks? You don't live here anymore. This place is half mine. Then send your lawyer. She glanced past me into the apartment like she could see the echo of herself inside. Then back at me. You really think you're the victim here? She asked. I'm not a victim. I'm just done being your audience. She pushed a strand of hair behind her ear, a nervous tell she used to do during arguments, back when she still cared about how they ended. I didn't love him, she said again. That wasn't the point. Then what was the point? She hesitated, just a flicker, like her body had the answer but her mouth couldn't decide if it was worth saying. He made me feel, she started, then stopped. I stepped closer. What? Seen? Wanted? Important. Silence. I gave you everything, I said. Loyalty. Time. Trust. I built a life around you. You didn't just cheat on me, you mocked me. You dragged my name through your little fantasy and laughed while you did it. Her jaw clenched. Don't act like you're a saint. You buried yourself in work. You stopped looking at me the way you used to. That gave you permission to burn everything down? No, she snapped. But it made it easier. And there it was. Not regret. Not remorse. Just truth. Ice cold. No apology attached. I handed her a cardboard box. Your hard drives are at the bottom. Your studio gear's in the closet out front. I left the rest of your stuff in storage. You can pick it up when I'm not here. She took the box without a word. Turned to leave. Then paused. You know what the real joke is, she said, back still facing me. You're going to wake up in a month and realize you miss me. You'll hate it. But you will. I didn't answer. Not because she was wrong, but because I knew I wouldn't. She walked away down the hallway, heels tapping like a metronome, fading into the kind of silence that finally felt clean. The apartment felt different after she left that night. Not better. Not worse. Just different. Like a stage after the curtains drop, the performance over, the audience gone, the silence waiting to be filled with something real. I sat at the kitchen counter with a beer I didn't want, flipping through the stack of mail I'd been ignoring. Most of it was junk. One envelope was from our leasing office, a reminder that the renewal date was coming up. I smiled. Not because I planned to renew, but because for the first time in months I would decide whether this place stayed part of my life. Whether her echo got to linger in the walls and furniture, or whether I could finally start fresh. I was 2 sips in when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it ring. Then again. A third time. Curiosity one. Hello? There was a pause. Then a man's voice. Is this Daniel? I recognized it instantly. Heard it before, muffled in the background of one of her video messages. Laughing in the distance behind one of her girls' night photos that I now knew was a lie. Eric, I said flatly. Another pause. Like he hadn't expected me to know his name. I didn't call to start anything, he said quickly. She told me you filed. I figured you deserved to hear it from me. Hear what? That it's over. Between me and her. I let the words hang. I could hear traffic behind him, the distant honk of horns. He was outside. Nervous. Probably pacing. She didn't tell you? He added. No, I said. We're not exactly sharing pillow talk these days. He sighed. Look, I didn't know how deep you two were. She said you were roommates. Basically done. I laughed. Couldn't help it. She told you we were roommates? That it was just paperwork. That you'd been emotionally gone for a year. I almost admired it. Her lies weren't just cruel, they were efficient. Tailored. She gave him just enough false permission to make betrayal feel like connection. Well, I said, she lied to you too. I know that now. Why are you calling me? He didn't answer for a few seconds. I didn't want to be the ghost that wrecked your marriage and disappeared. I stared at the wall, feeling absolutely nothing for this man. You weren't the ghost, I said. You were the tool. That landed hard. I could hear it in the silence on the other end. She used you, I continued. Just like she used me. The only difference is I married her. I'm sorry, he said. You should be. Then I hung up. No shouting. No dramatic monologue. No closure. I deleted the number. That night, I boxed up every picture of her. Every wedding photo. Every framed Polaroid. Every anniversary card we once stuck on the fridge. I didn't burn them. Didn't smash them. I put them in a storage bin and slid it under the bed. Not to preserve the past, but to bury it. The following days came in strange waves. Quiet mornings. Silent meals. Unfamiliar calm. At first, it felt like relief. No more walking on eggshells, no more rehearsing conversations in my head, trying to avoid triggering one of Alyssa's sudden, bored bursts of contempt. But relief doesn't mean peace. Not yet. The hardest part came in moments I didn't expect, walking past our favorite brunch spot on 4th, where she used to order eggs she barely touched. Driving by the dog park she once begged to visit even though we never had a dog. Hearing a song she loved, realizing it had played during one of those nights she claimed she was at Kayla's. They weren't memories anymore. They were traps. I started therapy. First session was a blur. I told the story in jagged pieces, not in order, just in pain. The therapist, Maggie, sat calmly, absorbing the mess, making no faces, taking no notes. Just listening. When I finally got to the part about the texts, the ones she sent to him, the way she talked about me, Maggie leaned forward and asked, "Do you think she ever respected you?" It hit me like a brick. Because I didn't know. And that was worse than knowing she cheated. A few nights later, I saw her again unexpectedly. I was leaving the grocery store, arms full of plastic bags, keys in my mouth, trying to juggle everything. She was walking out of the wine shop across the street, hand in hand with someone new. Not him, not Eric. This one was taller. Bearded. Looked like he lived in a flannel shirt. She spotted me before I spotted her. For a second, she hesitated. Then she smiled wide, full, deliberate. She wanted me to see. I stared for a moment, then kept walking. She didn't call out. Just turned her back and leaned into him like he was already her next chapter. Maybe he was. Maybe he thought she was different. Maybe she told him the same thing she told Eric, that I was just a roommate. A formality. A phase. But it didn't matter. Not anymore. Because while she kept running the same script with different co-stars, I was done with the show altogether. That night, I booked a flight. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere new. I didn't know how long I'd stay. Didn't care. I just knew I needed to be somewhere she had never touched. I landed in Oregon on a cold, misty Tuesday. No one knew I was there. No friends. No family. Just me, a rental car, and a week booked at a lakeside cabin with bad reception and better silence. That was the point. There was no dramatic eat, pray, love moment. No spiritual rebirth in the woods. Just space. And for the first time in a long time, I stopped explaining myself to the air around me. In that silence, the fog in my head started to lift. I stopped replaying her lies on a loop. I stopped wondering what I could have done differently or what detail I'd missed that proved it was all my fault. I let the anger come when it needed to, sharp and sudden, and then let it go just as quickly. I didn't cling to it anymore. The mornings were quiet and slow. I'd wake up before sunrise, wrap myself in a blanket, and drink coffee on the deck. The lake was still, black like ink, and it reminded me of how peace doesn't always look peaceful. Sometimes it looks like morning in slow motion. Around the third day, something strange happened. I found myself smiling. Not at anything in particular. Just being alone and okay with it. I took a walk in the woods without checking my phone. Ate a full meal without feeling like I had to prove something to someone. I started journaling again, something I hadn't done since college. Not about her, not anymore. About me. What I wanted. Who I'd become. What I would no longer tolerate. And one night, in the middle of reading a book I barely remembered picking up, I thought about Alyssa and didn't feel anything. Not pain. Not hate. Not love. Just silence. That was when I realized the divorce had already happened long before the papers were served. The legalities were just paperwork. The real split was emotional, invisible, a death we never acknowledged. I stayed another 2 days. Then I came back. The apartment was waiting for me, stripped and clean. Her scent was finally gone. The box with her things still sat by the door, untouched. I'd messaged her before I left to pick it up while I was away. She never responded. She didn't want the rest. Or maybe, deep down, she knew those pieces didn't belong to her anymore. I donated most of it. What I didn't donate, I threw out. The folder of evidence? Burned it. Not out of forgiveness, but because I didn't need a trophy from the wreckage. This wasn't about winning anymore. It was about walking away from the battlefield, finally knowing I survived. The first person who noticed I was different was my sister, Jenna. She came over a few weeks after I got back from Oregon. She brought beer and tacos, didn't ask questions. Just sat on the floor like she used to back in college, scrolling through some home decor site on her iPad. Then she glanced up and said, "You look not wrecked." I smiled. "Thanks. I think." She leaned against the couch. "When Alyssa left, I thought you'd spiral. I was ready to stage a Netflix-level intervention. You and me both." She nodded, then got quiet. "You loved her so much." I didn't deny it. That love had been real, painfully, blindingly real. The kind of love that made you ignore red flags, downplay gut instincts, convince yourself that sacrifices were noble instead of just exhausting. "But she didn't love me back," I said. "Not like you deserved." We sat in silence for a while. Then Jenna asked the question that had been circling my own head for days. "Do you think she ever really loved anyone?" I didn't know. Still don't. Because Alyssa wasn't the type to leave clean evidence behind. Her love, if it ever existed, was layered with performance. With utility. With control. If she did love, I don't think it looked like what most people call love. That same night, I opened the drawer where I used to keep the ring box. It was gone. Not stolen. I'd removed it myself months ago. Probably shoved it into a box or a closet when she started sleeping on the edge of the bed and laughing at jokes I hadn't told. But in that empty drawer, I saw what I'd really been holding on to. Not her. Not even the marriage. Just the idea of being right, of proving that I hadn't failed. I let go of that too. I started cleaning. Rearranging. Reclaiming. I moved the bed to the opposite wall. Got new sheets. Took down the mirror she'd insisted on putting up, the one she barely used but always admired for how it reflected light. I didn't want her reflection in the space anymore. I joined a local climbing gym. Not because I wanted to become a rock climber, but because it terrified me. And I needed to do things that weren't safe or predictable or shaped around someone else's expectations. One evening, while belaying a guy I just met, he turned and asked, "You climb with your partner?" "No," I said. "I climb alone." And for the first time, that didn't feel like a loss. It felt like a beginning. It's been 7 months since she walked out that door. No dramatic apology. No teary reunion. No late-night confessions asking for one more chance. Just silence. She never came for the rest of her things. Never asked about the divorce papers. Never responded to my last message telling her the lease was transferred and she was officially off it. And somehow that was the closure I didn't know I needed. Some friends still ask what happened. Most already know at least the version that matters. She cheated. I left. Life moved on. But there's a part they don't see. The part after the dust settles. After the pain stops being loud and starts being quiet. After you stop looking for justice and start building something better than revenge, a future. I got promoted at work, a surprise, even to me. My boss said I seemed clearer. More decisive. I laughed when he said it because he was right. It's amazing how sharp your mind gets when it isn't tied up in constant emotional warfare. I've started dating again slowly. No expectations. No comparisons. Just learning how to be present. How to ask questions without suspicion. How to laugh without checking the tone. One woman asked me what happened with my last relationship. I told her the truth. She lied. A lot. But the worst part wasn't the cheating. It was how easily she let me hurt without blinking. She nodded, didn't flinch, and said, "I'm sorry. You deserve better." That was all. No dramatics. No pity. Just understanding. And for the first time, I didn't feel embarrassed by my past. I felt freed from it. If I could go back and tell the man I was on the morning her phone lit up with divorce papers, I'd say this. Yes, it's going to wreck you. Yes, it will feel like the air has been stolen from your lungs, like you'll never laugh or trust or sleep peacefully again. But you will. You'll learn that the person who hurt you isn't a villain with fangs, they're just broken in ways you can't fix. And you? You're not weak for loving them. You're strong for leaving them. So, if you're reading this and you're where I was, staring at a screen, waiting for someone to prove they still care, I'll say this plainly. Don't wait. Serve the papers. Pack the bag. Change the locks. Burn the folder. Start the climb. Because no one's coming to save you. But once you save yourself, you'll never go back to the version of you who settled for less. And that, I promise you, is the real ending. The clean one.